Hi, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to show you some steps on how to make a rag quilt purse using your die cut, your scallop square die cut with the Big Shot. And just excuse the video, it's going to be kind of splotchy because I'm going to have to start and stop and start and stop. But hopefully you'll understand how to make one when it's all pulled together. So this is what it's going to look like when we're done. And I'm going to show you how I purchase the fabric. What I do is I get like a half a yard of the fabric that I want, and to make the purse I've chosen to use 3 patterns. Some people use 6. I've just chosen to use 3 because I'm new at this and it was easier for me to figure out. This right here is a sheet that I'm going to have available on my website, and this shows the pattern of the purse. And so what I'm going to do is show you how to get your squares, and then this is going to be how we're going to assemble it. Okay, so the first step is I'm going to put the fabric down and I'm going to cut it to get it ready for the Big Shot. And 3 tools that you need, of course, is a large cutting pad. You need a really nice rotary cutter. I bought one when I first got started, and I didn't cut through all the fabric really well. This one works really good. No fabric gets hung or whatever. It just glides very well, but it is very sharp, and this is the protection, and well, see my finger? I cut it. Just make sure you keep it closed, because I laughed when the lady told me, because I said, "Oh, I'm a paper crafter. I know, I know everything." And I've cut myself 4 times now, so don't make that mistake. The other thing you're going to need, of course, is this acrylic pad to hold your fabric down. And I have this gypsy gripper that makes it, it allows you to apply pressure on your fabric so that this doesn't slide when you get to the top. Okay? So now let's get started. We're going to cut the fabric. I'm going to cut this at 5 inches, but you can't really see the measurements because of the way I have the camera, but I'm going to line it up here on the 10 mark. Okay, so I'm going to put this right here, and then I'm going to line up. It has all these really nice grids on here, so I know you can't see it, but I'm going to cut it at 5 inches. Take my protection off there, and then just slide. Voila, it's that easy. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to get this ready for the Big Shot. So I'm going to pause the camera and then I'll be right back. Okay, now we're ready to take our strip of fabric and we're going to get it ready to position on our die so that we can run it through the Big Shot. So what I'm going to do is set it here on the grid paper, and then I'm just going to fold it over at the 5. Because the Big Shot will cut through 8 layers of fabric at one time, I'm going to fold this over so that I can get all 8 layers at one time. So I'm just turning it and flipping it so that each time it's folded at the 5-inch mark. Okay, so now it's ready. I'm going to set it right on top of this die. And you know what? I'm going to see if I can't maybe zoom in just a tad. How's that? Okay. So I'm going to position it right on top, and then just make sure when you're doing this that you make sure you get all the scallops, because I have run my fabric through and missed a couple of the scallops. But this looks good, so I'm ready to run it through the Big Shot. So I'm going to take the cutting mat, set it right there on top, and then put the pad under there, you're going to take one piece of cardstock. This cardstock just, I think it's an example like a shim. And so it just makes it go through the fabric a little bit better. Okay, so now I'm going to run it through. Okay, now watch this. This is always so cool. Just reach in the middle and pull it right out. And this is all 8 pieces. Isn't that amazing? And then this is just your leftover scraps. I've had a few people ask, how long do these dies last when you're cutting through fabric? I'm really not sure. I know I've made a ton of purses. I've used this die on a bunch of cardstock. It's lasted me, so I wouldn't be afraid to use it on fabric for a long time. Okay, so here's my squares. And so the next part of this video is I'm going to show you how to add your batting and your X's. So I'll be back. Okay, you're going to want 19 of these sandwiches. So what you're going to do is take 2 pieces of your fabric. Now right now I have the inside of my bag. The pattern is the same as the outside. Some people choose to have a whole different see, here's the inside. For me, since I'm a beginner, I thought that it was just easier to have the outside and the inside be the same design. You could just make your inside of your bag just one solid color. But again, this just is my way of simplifying things. Okay, so your batting's going to be 100% cotton, and I've cut these at 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. Okay, so you're going to take a glue stick. I've just used our Stampin' Up! Glue sticks. These are actually our old ones, but they work, and they actually do say ideal for paper, fabric, and other craft materials. Isn't that funny? Fabric. Okay, so you're just going to put a little bit right in the center, and then put your batting down. And the reason I just do a little bit in the center is because when we go to attach our handles in the purse, we slip the handles inside. Well, if I can get it open. Okay, so see, we're going to slip our handle right inside there. See? And if we had glue, or yeah, glue all the way on it, we wouldn't be able to slide our handles or our closing strap in there. Okay, so see, that one's done. I'll do one more just to show you again. Okay, a little bit of glue, a little bit of glue. Position that. Okay, so now the next part of this will be the sewing to add your X that's in the middle of these. Okay, now we're going to put the X's on your squares. And so what I've done is I've taken, okay, here's my pins. And what I'm going to do to keep the fabric from sliding while I'm stitching it, I just put a pin on each side. Okay, see that? That keeps the fabric from shifting when I put it on my machine or when I'm stitching it. Okay, so I'm going to, well, need to turn the power on. There we go. Now, if you wanted the lines to be perfectly straight, then you could use a marker or one of those pencils that's removable. But since it's a rag quilt purse, then I'm okay with the lines not being completely straight. So I'm just going to put my foot down there and then just go from one side and then right here, instead of going all the way to the end, I'm going to lift the foot and then pull it out. And then now what I'm going to do is bring my next piece. What this allows me to do is do like a chain, and so that way I'll get all of these squares done and then I'll cut it. So I'm going to show you that in just a second. so I think you get the idea. So I'm going to lift that out. Okay, so now I have 2 of my squares that are stuck together with the thread, and then I would do all 19 of these together. So I would cut apart 19, and then once you've got one side of your X done, then you're going to put it back in here and do the other side of the X. But make sure you take your pins out because you don't want to sew those. And now that I've got one stitch in there, I'm not so concerned about keeping the fabric straight, so I don't put the pins back in. Okay, I was really crooked on that one because I was taking the pins out of the other one, but that's okay. And then I just put this in there and then just go to town. Okay, so that's it for the sewing part on this stage, and so now I'll go to the next step. In this part of the video, I'm going to show you how to lay out your pattern with your squares, and this step would be done after you've sewn all your X's on your squares. I've not done that, but I want to go ahead and get this step done so that I can get this video ready. Okay, so I'm going to move this up. On your bottom, this is your bottom, and these are your 2 side panels. So, if you look at this purse, you can see that on the bottom I have this design, and this design. Okay, so for the bottom, I have this. And then this. And then this. Okay, so that's the bottom of my purse. Except, you know what, I'm going to need to zoom out a little bit. Let's see. So you can see all of it. And let me slide this up because that's the bottom. We might have a little bit of trouble getting all of this in the screen. Okay, so then the side panels of the purse are 2 pieces over here. So we're going to put this here and this here. And again, just pretend these already have their X's on them and they already have their batting. And then I'm out of fabric for the arm, or for the side panels. So we're going to pretend that this is a blue piece. So it would be this one. And then here we go. So this is what your bottom is going to look like, because this is the bottom 3, and then the 2 side arms. Okay? Then, let's see. If we copy this bag, then I would put this here. And I'm out of the blue one right now, so we'd put a blue there, and then this one here. And then the same for here. So we would put this. We'll pretend that's a chocolate piece. And then this. Okay? And then we're going to have one more layer. And I don't think... Let me slide this up so that you can see it. Okay, this part of the video is going to show you how to lay out your squares for your purse. And as you can see, this row here is 3 squares at the bottom of the purse, and then these 2 are the side panels. This is the front of the bag, and that's the back, or vice versa. So see, when you're looking at it, this is the bottom, and then your 2 sides. Okay, so next I'm going to take some pins and I'm going to start pinning it. But first I want to show you this sheet that I'm going to have available for sale on my website. So it's going to include this pattern along with the instructions and the supply list. So once I release the videos to show the purse completely completed, I'll have that available. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to piece this with your pin so that you can take it to your sewing machine. Okay, remember you're going to stitch on the outside of your purse. So what I do is I just start on the first row of 3, and then I put these together just like that. And you know what, I'm actually going to zoom in now a little bit. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take my pen and then just pin this together, okay? So then this is how I had it. So this is where I'm going to be stitching. So now I'm going to go ahead and attach this side too, so that when I get over to the sewing machine I won't get confused about which piece this blue one attaches to, whether it attaches to this piece or this piece. So I'm going to go ahead and pin that. So then this is ready to just take over to your sewing machine and just sew your either 1/4 or 1/2 inch seam there. So next I'm just going to go ahead and do the same here. And then, well, let me put this down. So the same thing goes for all of these. So I don't really have to show you again because you're just going to do the same thing. Attach this piece to this piece and then this piece to this piece. So the next part of my video will be me showing you how I sew that. Okay. Okay, so this part of the video is I have already pinned all of my squares together, and this is actually the bottom of my purse. So there's 7 layers here. So what I'm going to do is just start on the first side, this first pin, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam right down there. And I may have the pin a little too close to the edge, so I'm just going to move it. Okay, so now I'm just going to sew. Okay, so raise my foot, and I can tell my pin is still in the way, but I don't really need the pin now because I just did that to bring it over to the machine. Okay, so the way I line it up here is there's these little marks on the sewing machine, and so that's how I make sure I keep the scallop on that 1/8 mark, and I've determined that this is where I'm comfortable putting my seam. If you want it to be perfect, of course you could use those markers or pencils that are washable. Okay, so here we go. Okay, erase that. And so that's the first one. So then I just go over, make sure I open that up, then take this pin out, and now I'm ready for this one. I can tell I didn't sandwich this real perfect together, so let's take it back out. Okay, so that's it on this part. What you would do is all of your squares, you're going to sew them all together and see how it's taken shape. Here's the outside of the bag. So, okay. For this part of the video, I've already sewn all of these pieces together, and now what we're going to do is pin these pieces together so that we can sew the bag together. So the first thing that we're going to do is take these 2 pieces and pin them together so that we can take it over to the machine and stitch it. Okay, so when we take it over there, it's been pinned, and it's going to look just like that after we've sewn it. Then after we've sewn this one, then we're going to come back over here and we're going to attach this one and we're going to pin it. Actually, you know what? I can go ahead and do that now so that you can see it. It's a little harder on the sewing machine, but let's pin it. Okay, so then So that's the bottom. And then now we'll attach these pieces to this. And then once I take it to the sewing machine, then I'll just stitch all of these. And then the last step is I'll show you how to bring the side of the purse up. Okay, see? So then the last one I have is this one, but I won't make you watch that. I think I've shown you enough. So then the next step I'll show you on the sewing machine. Okay. Okay, for this part we're going to sew all of our squares together. So the last part of this, you saw me pin all of these together. And so what I'm going to do now is just start with the first one and then just stitch it. Okay, so I'm going to remove this pin but leave the other ones in for now. Okay, now I'm going to remove this pin that's right there. I think I just went a little crooked there. And then I remove the next pin. Okay, so now when you now you can see that on one side it's sewn, and then on this side you can see. Sorry, I know it's hard to see with the camera, but now I'm just going to finish doing all of this to the rest of the areas that I have pinned, and so I'll show you that when I'm done. Okay, I have sewn all the pieces together, and so the last step is to bring up your sides, and what we're going to do is pin the sides so that then we can sew it. So I'm just going to show you. I would pin this side. And then pin this side. Okay, and as you can see there's, so we do the same for this side and then take it over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew it, okay? So I'm not going to film that again because you've already seen me sew that several times. So the next step is you're going to actually work on your handles for your purse. And your fabric's going to measure 2.5 by 24, and your batting that you're going to put in your handle is going to measure 3/4 by 24. This one's a little bit longer than 24 because I've kind of stretched it. The more you work with it, it kind of stretches out. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I make this. First thing I do is, this is like my little portable ironing pad, and what I'm going to do is fold this fabric in half, and then I'm going to iron it. You could pin it, but I'm going to iron it because that, to me, it holds it a lot easier. I'm still going to pin it, but I found that ironing it just makes it so much easier. Okay, so now that it's ironed, I have my seam in there, and now the next part, you would put your batting right inside here, right where that seam, where that line is, that middle crease. But then before I add that, I'm actually going to fold this down and iron it too. Okay, so let me zoom in a little. So what I'm going to do is fold in about that much. Okay, and I'm not going to make you watch me do that whole piece because it would take too much time. So then after I iron that and fold it in, then I'm going to take the other side and fold that in, and then I would stitch it. See? So I've got one already ready. So what I did was I ironed it, and then I pinned it. And see, I have all these pins. And so then now I'm just going to take it to the sewing machine, and instead of making you watch, I'm just going to tell you, you're just going to sew a stitch all the way down on this side, and then you're going to sew one on this side, and then just cut off the extra batting. And so there's your handle. So the next I'm going to show you how to attach the handle, okay? Okay, so we're going to add your handles. So what you're going to do is, here's your handle, and you're going to take the first side, and you're going to put it right inside here, and then take your pins and pin it, hold that in place. And then the next side, you're going to just bring this over and make sure you get it positioned right. Maybe I should lay it down. There we go. And then do the same thing. Open that up in there. Put it in as far as you can get it to go in. Okay? And what I do is I try to center it in the square. And then pin that. And then the way that you're going to get your handles to stay on there is you're going to next, instead of sewing these handles on, what you're going to do is take this to the machine, and you're going to do your 1/4 inch seam or 1/2 inch seam all the way around the whole entire purse. So around here. But right now we've got one handle attached, so we need to add another one, and then we need to do the closing strap if you want that. So I'm going to show you how to make that real fast. You're going to need a piece of fabric that is 2 by 12, and I'm showing you how to make it in brown. I'm not sure that I would use the same color as your handle, but this is my example. Okay, so I would do the same thing to this as I did. I'm going to widen this back out. So I'm going to do the same thing as I would fold this in half and iron it, and then open it back up, and then fold this in to that crease that you made, and then fold this in. And so when it's all done, you're going to have a 1/2 inch strip, just like that. So just like the handle, you would take it over there and you would sew it, and when you're done, you would have one long strip that's been sewn. Okay, this has already been sewn, because next I'm going to show you how to get that. Okay, so what I've done is you have your 12 by a 1/2 inch strip, and then you just take this, fold it so that it's positioned down here, and then do it just like that. Okay, and then what I do is I just pin it to hold it, and then you would sew it. This would already have been sewn, so make sure you sew this first. This would be the last step. And so here's one that's finished, and I stitched it twice. I stitched it just a little bit up here at the top. Let's see if you can see it. Right up here, a small stitch, and then right here. Okay, so then to attach it to the purse, let's say this is the front of the bag, so then you're going to put your closing strap right inside this middle piece, and then it's going to position here, and then you would put your button right in the center here. So this 12-inch piece might be a tad bit long. I might need to cut it down, but add your button first. Just stitch that right in there. It's such a busy pattern, I don't know if you can see it. So I'll add the button there and then put the strap in. Okay. Okay, I have sewn the handles on the bag. I added the button, and the way I added the handles, of course, was I just stitched a 1/4 seam around the whole entire bag. And then the last step, well, actually there's 2 more steps. First, you're going to take your scissors and then you're just going to snip all of these scallops and make sure that you don't go all the way to the seam. And you know what, I'm actually going to zoom in so that you can see this. Okay, so I'm going to start here on the bottom so that you can really see it. Take some really sharp scissors and just cut at an angle. You're going to do it about every 1/4 of an inch. Just make sure you don't cut your seam. Okay, and this actually takes a while. You think you could, you can do this really fast, but it takes a little bit. Okay, so you're going to do that to the whole entire bag, and then just kind of rough it up, and then you're going to wash the bag in like on a delicate cycle in your washing machine. And I actually put mine like in a garment bag, and so once you wash it, let me zoom back out. This is really how it's going to look, really cute and fuzzy. Okay, and if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks a lot.